Welcome everybody back to the All Juve cast, and it's live at 5. It's match day. We got Cagliari versus Juventus today in Serie A, and we're going to be getting ready for that. Of course, as you can see on the ticker there, Juventus will be away from home, and the previous meeting there, 2-0. Juventus win back on November 21st, 2020, and we still have a lot to discuss, especially in the follow-up to what was a really interesting and great interview with Mirko Di Natale yesterday. And to chat all things Juve today, I got my main guys here, Antonio and Colin. How you guys doing?
I'm good, Al. A bit better than Colin. I think he's a bit rough today.
I'm all good. Don't worry. I can check you no matter what.
There you go. No, that's good. Guys, before we even get Cagliari Juventus, there's quite a bit to follow up on there out of the interview. Some key stuff there. Started to get an interesting look in. It was a wild week after the Porto loss, and news was flying left, right, and center. And I had to tell Mirko I almost felt bad for him coming into a live scenario with all that looming around. But he was fantastic. He did a really good job, and he kind of shed some light that for me it kind of all made sense. He debunked some rumors that were swirling around and gave some interesting insight and ideas that we didn't really know about were there prior. But we do want to talk about some of the key points coming out of it. Paratici, Nedved, the whole upper management structure and whatnot appears to be locked in and safe. And he mentioned that Paratici is pretty sought out by other European clubs. He named one in Italy and one abroad just to give us an idea. So Roma being one in Italy, Manchester United being one abroad. And guys, your thoughts on upper management kind of being locked in? And it's interesting as all this was flying around and we were talking about it post Porto, that some people said, hey, be careful what you ask for in terms of changes at that level, because it may or may not reflect a player's desire to come join a team that may seem like they're losing stability or whatnot, right? So I just want to get your guys' thoughts on upper management staying locked in or whatnot, that it appears to be will happen from Mirko. What are you guys' thoughts on that? I'm fine with it, to be honest. I have no issues to see where we need to make that change at the moment, mostly because COVID and the effects. And it makes it very hard for them to truly do what they need to, right? But how do you guys feel?
And you go, Colin. You take this one, man.
Like I mentioned it in the previous podcast, and I'm going to bring it back up here again. Juve made a significant change back in October. So they took Paratici at the time, whose sole job was to look after the first team, and they gave him a global role, which is in charge of all football activities. And they put Cherubini, his sidekick, in charge of the first team activities solely. So they basically they restructured already, and while I understand a lot of fans' frustrations, I feel personally that Juve have already made a move in that side of things. So we kind of need to give, people don't like listening to this, and I don't like saying it every time we talk about management or Pirlo, but we kind of need to give time. You know what I mean? And and that's the short answer, really.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And interesting, David saying buongiorno, and he says, no daylight savings for you guys, I guess, as it should be. But Alejandro coming in saying, the doing Mercado based on balancing the books and not improving the team comes from one guy and one guy only, Andrea Agnelli, and he seems to get almost no stick under the fans.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah, how can you give him stick? I'm sorry. I mean, we need to remember where we've came from. I mean, it's all Agnelli. It's that everything you see as Juventus today as a brand, as a football side, it's all down to his doing. He's a very hands-on president. I mean, I don't know another club in Europe for that you see the president most of the times travel with the team and being present at all times. So I find it quite hard to give him any stick or any criticism. But as I say, that's just a personal opinion. Go back to the Paratici thing. I'm kind of torn based just off the back of what Mirko said. I don't think he's the worst out there, but I certainly think there is room for improvement from Paratici, considering he spent over 400 million or close to in the last 3 years. And then obviously you see the results in Europe. Now, I know obviously it's not all his fault, because I do blame a lot of the players, especially in the last couple of games, and certainly in the exit midweek against Porto, as I say. But I think he's got a lot to improve. He needs to improve for me, Paratici, and I'll use the example of Aaron Ramsey. That signing should never have been made. Pirlo said yesterday in his press conference that basically the guy just can't stay fit. That was almost his words without actually saying them. So that's a massive problem. So we could face now a Mercado session where we're going to have another Sami Khedira. Well, he doesn't want to leave because he's fine. He's got his money. He's got his feet under the table. And let's be realistic, who's going to take him on?
Yeah. That's kind of the thing. This is kind of one of the problems why I feel this particular statement coming in from Alejandro, like how I look at it is, I don't think they want to run their Mercados in that way. I think they've made mistakes that have led them to run them in that way. Ramsey is kind of going to be one of those scenarios where you bring in a guy, you make life very, very comfortable. To number one, creates this way that he doesn't want to go. And number two, you've got him on this level, on this pay thing, that he doesn't hold that value to another club. And this has been an issue that we ran into, and this can go 2 Mercados back, because that was that's where it really, really hit hard, that one, because you shorthanded yourself in the next season. And if people don't believe that that there's any issues in these Mercados or whatnot, when you start to try and bring back the same players you let go, that's where you start to get uncomfortable as a fan.
Yeah,
that's where you start to second guess the club's dealings and whatnot. Moving Moise Kean and then all of a sudden a year out trying to get him back. It's weird. You see these things and it's like, we're getting rid of guys' positions, not only just the players. Okay, I don't want people to focus on the names, but the positions. We're leaving ourselves high and dry on certain positions. Sandro not getting coverage because we removed 2 fullbacks in 1 Mercado, which was like, why? Well, the reason why is you get stuck with guys that have no value to other clubs. Mm-hmm. And this is another thing when we talk about the whole Ronaldo thing, because everybody's talking about, is it a failure? Is the project a failure? I think management kind of dropped the ball, because I even made the shout during that time, but I said, if you want to make the most of it, you have to take your lumps now. The dead weight to try and get something out of those guys from other clubs was going to be very, very difficult. You had to just say, you know what, chalk up our losses, move it along, in order to bring in fresh players or whatnot that could help that win now window. Yeah. The fact that they didn't, that's where I see, the lack of follow up and a bit of the failure in the project. You guys agree with that, or what do you think?
I do. mean, just to like address the point in general as well. I mean, why do we have to balance the books? You know, where is this idea that you don't have to balance the books? I mean, where does it come from? Okay, we see clubs like Barcelona, we see with the Neymar deal, we see PSG involved in the Neymar deal, we see Manchester City getting away with murder, and only because of statute of limitations they're able to not get punished. So certain clubs out there are able to do it. Juventus are not one of those clubs. We pushed out the boat major for Ronaldo. We pushed it out big time, and we offset the financial kind of side of it with an increased Adidas deal, which all of a sudden, a couple of months after the Ronaldo announcement, went up to 400 million over 4 years, which was, kind of like, if you didn't notice that, then maybe you should pay more attention. So we were able to offset it with that, but in general, we can't. We're not a club who can just go into the transfer market, led by a president who doesn't really care about the implications. He's just trying to, just on an ego trip, a la Real Madrid, a la, Florentino Perez, and, the Barcelona president, Juan Laporta, is going to come back in, do the exact same thing for Barcelona. And the Bartomeu, the guy, outgoing guy, he did the same as well before him. But we can't get away with that. If we try to do that, we'll be destroyed.
Is that a hint of corruption, Colin? I think so.
It's just a fact.
UEFA corrupt, and looking at the Italian teams, surely not. It's always the same. Look what they done to AC Milan just before they took part in the Europa League. They scrutinised them from top to bottom. As you say, teams like Manchester City, Chelsea, they get away with it every single year. But unfortunately, clubs like Juventus, as I say, and I'm not saying that there is corruption there. However, I wouldn't say that. I think there's a strong argument that obviously it's a strong argument that people make, and you certainly can see both sides. Absolutely.
Yeah. And shout out to everybody joining live. Maximilian saying big hello to the crew. Ciao, Maximilian. And then we got Abdul coming in saying ciao, Abdul. And we've got some comments coming in this particular discussion right now. So this summer will be the most challenging yet. Players that need to leave, loan players coming that have to be sold, and positions that are needed. Mid, backs, and striker. And this is one of the things as well. We've needed that reset, but we haven't been able to do it due to these circumstances in these past couple mercados. And I think if we look at it, though, they have done well in terms of still bringing in like some good talent and whatnot. And they're just like, the Chiesa deal was nice how they structured it. The Morata deal was good how that's structured, because it's actually, we have an option on a 10 million euro loan again into next season. His price tag, we'll have to see. I think that's a no-brainer for me. I would carry on the loan for one more season with Morata. I wouldn't make it permanent just yet, because you don't know what options are there. And you want to avoid handcuffing yourself, right? So I think for me, it's a no-brainer. You go loan again the next season with Morata. And then obviously assess from that point. And I feel like that's sometimes the issue we get into too, is like, you hear so many times, like in years past, doing these contract extensions so early on in a year on guys that I don't think it's that intense a discussion or that intense a scenario where you have to get that one done like right on the spot. I think there's a certain caliber of player where you can discuss that. You can have that talk and be like, yeah, you know what, we need to lock this down. But some of the guys in years prior, it was like, just wait, see what develops towards the end of the season, see what player opportunities are out there, right? And just continuing on in this, you've got We need a miracle to move on players like Berna, Douglas, Rugani, Ramsey, all players who are overpaid. And that's on Paratici, Nedved, and Beppe.
Yes.
So the thing is that honestly, at this point in time, this might be highly unpopular, but I don't see Berna as one of those guys anymore. He's not at the top of my list anymore now.
Yeah. I think we've been over. I've been guilty of it myself in the past with Bernardeschi. However, looking at the last maybe 5-6 games, he definitely there is a future for him there. I seen Gianluca Zambrotta's comments that he made about Bernardeschi, where he said if he applies himself to that position with his strength, his physical ability, and obviously still get age on his side, there's every reason for him to be a lock and left back, as I say. So I think if he makes that position on his own and believes in himself, because I think it's confidence with him, I think Bernardeschi's got a massive future still at Juventus. I think he's got unfinished work, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Let me jump in on Berna there. I think I've said it to you a few times in chat that I like to get like outside opinions. You know what I mean, from guys who maybe don't have the preconceived ideas that we have. And Berna is one of the players that people outside of the Juve kind of sphere look at and think he's pretty good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was one of the guys my dad picked out alongside Chiesa in the couple of games v Porto and previous games that actually stood out a little bit. And you know, obviously we see the litany of stuff that's gone on all season, you know what I mean? But I think it's worth pointing out that clearly Pirlo has put a lot of energy into the skills to bring him back. And you know, I think Pirlo needs to be commended for his man management there as well. Because at one stage Bernardeschi looked resigned. He looked like
confidence. Confidence.
Yeah.
You can't just throw that away now. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and again, I think like even in years past, like the simple question that I apply, you know, and I put that in my written piece this week for my column for Bianconeri Zone. I said, you have to ask one simple question. You know, is there somebody that needs to go first?
Oh, yes.
And that's what stings the most, and that's what hurts from a fan's perspective, is that if you applied that question in years prior, you're almost always going to see guys on that list that shouldn't be, right? And that's why we're just not able to get to a point where we're caught up. You know what I mean? It seems like we're trying to play catch up every mercado, and that's why we're moving pieces. It's because of the value they hold. But because of that issue, it almost creates this loop that you're in, because you're keeping guys that you can't, which means that it's going to be harder to move those guys, and you're getting rid of the guys that do have the value. So you're almost in this, you know, this Groundhog Day effect that you can't snap out of. And unfortunately now, like our viewers have mentioned, COVID makes it very, very difficult. You know, AJ also coming in, just saying that basically, you know, sell your good players before they decline. Dybala, Sandro is a couple he's named. Sandro, I made that shout many, many years ago. You know, like for me, he would have been one I would have moved on from when we had a couple other guys in there, the same Mercado. We lost Moise Kean and whatnot. For me, it would have been him because he had a strong value. A lot of teams sought after, and we would have had the coverage there at a decent age. And honestly, I saw some decline there at that point. So again, I think moving along from projects is a big thing Juve needs to get stronger at. No different than a guy like Rugani. You know what I mean? Like, keep the project fresh. If you can see he's only going to be some level, even as a fourth or fifth option, you know, it doesn't mean that he needs to be around, because honestly, you find yourself in a situation like when you have to call upon him and he lacks confidence. Is he really at that caliber? Even as a fourth and fifth option, I've never had the confidence in the guy. He came out and said, in an interview now, as they ask him about playing Cagliari now, and he said, he goes, it's just a matter, I had no confidence, and you're keeping these guys, and it is what it is. Keep the project fresh. Keep those guys coming in. Like Romero could have come in, been a fourth option, just to have as a fourth option, whether you want him minutes somewhere else on loan or whatnot. Well, I think giving Atalanta that option was a mistake. That was kind of a big mistake. It looks like it's going to hurt us too and not get the value, but hopefully they can turn it into a positive with a deal with Atalanta. Something Mirko talked about yesterday, saying that the rumors that are out that say Juventus could get him back and then swing him as a deal, it's not. It's completely in Atalanta's hand. They will lock him up. Everything is set for them to take that. But the relationship is decent, he said, and if Gosens were someone that they were going to approach, that would factor in. But Gosens, they did approach. He said they approached him last summer and they approached in January, but the price is just it's unmanageable at the moment for Juventus. So very, very interesting stuff there with that. The rebuild, in terms of the rebuild, Mirko did kind of a really good job, solid job in showing us it's going to be a couple guys. Everybody's looking for this big shakeup. You guys have talked about COVID and whatnot, but he said, look, the circumstances where they're at, Locatelli is manageable for Juventus. So I feel like that's why it's a lock. He said Aouar is probably the other one. If he had to bet something on there, he said it's probably going to be Aouar and Locatelli. He said Juve will also, as they always do, and especially given the circumstances, have eyes on the free agent listings. And that makes perfect sense. In terms of moving, that's where it gets tricky. So that's where their work's going to get cut out for them. And that is very, very hard to even predict or come close to at the moment. But very, very interesting insight into this whole rebuild shakeup thing. And is it what you guys expected to hear? Is it how you thought it would play out?
Yeah. As I say, I think we're sometimes we're majorly overcritical of our team. As I say, but we've set the bar so high that you can see why that argument stands. We have been rebuilding since, for me, in the last year, easily. With the Pirlo coming in with his new ideas, he's obviously got a clear vision how he wants to play football. So I don't think, I've said it many times with you guys off the live shows, we're 2-3 players away from a very good side. I don't see any reason why there has to be a major overhaul. I really don't. I think we need to be confident with this group of players, minus obviously the ones that we've pointed out, as I say. But if we've played the game, we know, and I've said it many times on previous podcasts, the midfield at any level is the most important part of the pitch for me. If you can dominate a midfield or get goals from midfield, 9 times out of 10 you will win a game of football. Now, we don't have any of that at all. You can see the midfielders we've got, they're all kind of roughly the similar kind of players. So with the addition, hopefully, of Locatelli and my personal favourite, Aouar, you're going to get goals. Locatelli scored another wonderful goal yesterday for Sassuolo. So just those small, or even if De Paul comes in, because Alberto's a fan of him and there's an argument for him. I think either way, we need to address that midfield, and it's not a big change for me.
Yeah, and this kind of goes to, again, the argument to keep Bernardeschi around is that, if he can fill in there, I think Sandro needs to move. I don't think Bernardeschi is a long-term solution at left back by any means.
No.
But if he can get us by a season where we can add a couple midfielders and whatnot, you can service. I think he's serviceable. That should be the phrase, right? Serviceable at that spot. If we can't move Sandro in this offseason, even if we could, a guy like Danilo that could cover in that spot. The coverage is there at the moment, I feel. Definitely not long term. And this is the issue, is that you need midfielders, but you need fullbacks, and arguably both sides for long-term solutions.
Yeah.
So not taking anything away from Cuadrado's production this season or whatnot, but it isn't a long-term solution, right? And he's 32 now. So that's kind of one of the things, is I think we have to look at where we're serviceable at and where we need the most help. But the midfield, those particular profiles are something we need massively. We absolutely have to get those. I know that Colin wanted to talk on Agnelli, and I know that there was a comment early on there. We could have latched on that point, but I know you want to talk about Agnelli and in particular just the Super League, everything just surrounding Agnelli, because now all of a sudden it is starting to dial up. That comment that came in earlier from Alejandro about him not getting shtick, he is starting to, though. It is kind of starting there. So I know Colin wanted to speak to it, so I'll give you the floor here to say and kick us off.
Well, I think Agnelli's getting the world of shit at the moment. British newspapers are at his throat. All over the world, they're at his throat. They see him as he's the figurehead of this movement that's going to destroy football. Do you know what I mean? And it's not really true. He's in charge of this association. He's the chairman, but there's many other groups and people that represent different associations inside this association that are they're pushing for. They've got the different vested interests, like the Spanish clubs. They want a Super League. They basically have a monopoly. Real Madrid, Barcelona. I'm sure PSG will feel the same as well. You could even argue Bayern Munich, it would benefit them quite a lot. It would certainly benefit us. But on the other side, I feel the English clubs will never go for it. And maybe Antonio might have an insight here, but for me, British people don't necessarily consider themselves European, and they very much value what they have over European projects.
Yeah,
we can see that without getting too political. We can see that in Brexit, but so a move, while it might be more lucrative for the top clubs like Manchester United, Chelsea, Man City, and maybe one or two others, I don't see them forsaking their own league to achieve it, because they actually have massive revenues with the Premier League already. Yeah. So for me, I think Agnelli, while I love the guy, I love what he's done for the club. I just think this is a dead kind of a discussion, and he needs to kind of distance himself from it a little bit, because he's going to continue to take serious heat for it if he keeps going.
Yeah, Antonio, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I do agree with everything Colin's just said. I posted it just after the Porto elimination, where obviously we're still all licking our wounds. I think Agnelli's took his eye off the ball. With obviously, I'm kind of contradicting what I said at the start of the show, where he is normally very close to the side, and he's always forever present. But he is a visionary. He's got an idea of what he wants to do, and he's got that drive that he's obviously his grandfather, Gianni Agnelli, had as well, who was, when he wanted something, he would go and get it at all costs. But I certainly don't want him neglecting the side, because I think where it was, as Mirko pointed out, we are in the rebuild's well underway. So I think if he just distances himself from that, it'll be very important, because we need him close to the club. But I think Colin's right. I don't want to say that there's an agenda out there. towards Juventus, as I say, but we might obviously touch on the Ronaldo penalty incident against Porto, as I say. But when you see things that has happened year after year after year to the same club every single time, then it can't help. I mean, it certainly fuels the kind of elements of doubts that are placed.
Yeah, there's just that it was so strange. I mean, the first leg we had that penalty to shout, and you're thinking, okay, I can see that. You know. The second leg, I don't know. I don't know. Like for me, that's a penalty all day.
Every day.
Yeah. People can't get caught up on the fact that the keeper touches ball, because that's not actually in the rules. Whether you touch the ball first or not is not in the rules. You have to be in control of yourself.
Yes.
And the fact of how high that keeper's boot was and whatnot, and like up around the knee area, it's dangerous. It's a dangerous tackle. Yeah. If it's outside the area, it gets called every time. The fact it wasn't even looked at, the fact that just everything went on normally, it does start. It's hard not to feel, almost like there's something going on, against it. And it's a terrible way to feel. It's a very cynical way to think, but you just can't help it. And I mean, UEFA is anything but clean in terms of history. So,
yeah,
you could start to say things. I don't want to get, too carried away or, start going down a rabbit hole or whatnot, but it really does make you think.
Yeah.
Then you have the Delict instance and Marco Roberto bringing in that one where he gets clipped. And again, no real desire for the official to look at it.
Yeah.
Who knows what's being said there or whatnot, but I think you got to take a look at that one. In that type of match, in that scenario, I find it odd he wouldn't, and say, hey, I want to get this right. Regardless of what these guys are telling you, it's like, as a referee, I would think hey, I want to get this right. I'm going to come take a look.
Yeah.
So it's odd, right? It's frustrating is what it is. But yeah, Antonio, you're right. It feels like it's year after year after year. And then when at the same time, you got your president trying to circumnavigate this league entirely.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, what are we doing here? What's going on there? So I think he just needs to reel it in. I think he needs to tie that whole thing down. I honestly, even if all things were fine and say this thing was gonna, I don't personally like it either as a fan, to be honest.
Yeah.
Just as the concept of this Super League, what do you guys think of just the concept of it?
Yeah, I mean, I like the fact that we'd be making a significant amount of money from it. I mean, we'd be making huge money out of it. So I like that. I think Juve have been held back by, a general lack of organization in Serie A for a long, long time. Even going back as far as 2000s, and barely been able to see Italian football on English TV for that period. And TV rights has been a huge issue in Italy. There's still a romantic part of it for me. Is I want to see Juve winning the Scudetto every year, and if we're not in there, you can't do it. And but I just don't think it's realistic. It's never going to happen. It suits us, and it's okay for Agnelli because he takes stick from the Italian press and people who are involved in other clubs in Italy all the time. So it makes no difference to him. Do you know what I mean? He can just turn around and say, I don't care about Serie A.
Yeah.
You know, I want us to move up and you know, get into a different financial kind of sphere, and it doesn't matter what sticky things,
Yeah.
but it's just not realistic. It's never going to happen. Like, believe me, the British club will never go for it. They won't.
Yeah. And honestly, like for me, it doesn't stop, especially this season in particular, it doesn't stop at Champions League. Like if you look at Serie A, we're not getting the benefit of the calls, in my opinion. Like this is starting to stretch out across all competitions. I don't want to sound like that's a reason why we're where we're at, because that's not the case whatsoever. But this perception that Juventus gets all the calls or whatnot it's laughable, you know. And I think I saw the stat line the other day where it was all the teams based on penalty calls, and then Milan is just like almost at 20, I think, you know, these PKs or whatnot. And I think the next closest is 8, if I'm not mistaken. Like, so that's a massive gap. But you know, we see this continuing on with Juventus, and it's extremely frustrating in Europe, especially. And I just don't think Agnelli's really doing us any favors. And I think, you know, it's maybe time for him to reel things in, take a look at the whole perspective, and see. Anthony here making a great point. Are we even strong enough to compete in this league? If we're struggling to beat Porto, Lyon, and Ajax, what's going to happen against these teams like in this league or whatnot? Number one, I don't want to see this league, period, because I just don't want to see them facing like this same rotation over and over and over, right? Kind of the allure of the Champions League is those matches you get once in a blue moon that you're like, hey, this is cool, you know, or you're in a hostile environment, like away from home, you know, and that's part of the allure of it, right? Figuring out who you're going to draw when you draw them, and if you get that big matchup, it's fantastic. It would lose it to have to face that big matchup over and over and over. You know, like you're constantly getting that. It's just like, holy shit. But can we compete? Hard to think so at the moment because of the restructuring and what we're trying to accomplish here and whatnot. But this thing's just such a money grab. You know, that's what this league is all about.
Yep.
It's Agnelli, he's going for money, and there's really nothing else to it. Hey, Antonio?
It's a crystal ball question, Alberto. It's impossible to answer. It's a good question, as I say, but it's hard to come up with an actual logical answer because you don't know. As I say, I think now that I've settled down, certainly I took the Porto elimination, as probably a lot of us did, quite hard, especially this time. I thought we were going to do it. But when I now sit back and I've watched the game over, which is something I usually don't do, as I say, to see what had happened, where we went wrong, and it did just come down to fine details not going in our favour, not making a rule. For example, Quadrado, if that ball's a millimetre either direction, up or down, it's in the back of the net, and we're maybe having a different discussion. The previous question, yes, we should be beating teams like Ajax, Lyon and Porto every day of the week, but this current team with that current midfield isn't good enough to compete at Champions League level. I know a couple of the guys on the chat disagreed with me. Obviously, when I said it was better to go out just now, and I can see the argument because obviously you want to progress. You don't know what can happen in cup competition. But my biggest fear was we drew in the next round a Manchester City or a Bayern Munich, and they would seriously expose us. As I say, so that was my argument. So if we had to go out, it was better going out in this round so we could regroup with plenty of time left, and there was no false hope being placed on the side because that we're at our limit. That's as far as we could go as far as I'm concerned.
It's tough, right? Like, I mean, obviously it wasn't. It's hard to say it's better because I totally understand you. It's hard to say it's better because we needed the money. You know, the financial, it would have helped getting further. But also, it's tough, man. I wrote it in my column this week too, and I said, we probably have a different discussion if we just seize the moments of those 2 legs.
Yes.
You still have a loss that's chalked up really to moments and mistakes, critical mistakes that cost you goals.
Both legs, yeah.
And when you can't finish,
Sorry.
that's okay.
We've got
Zizou.
Yes, you have. We've got an imposter. We've got a streaker.
There you go. And then while you can't capitalize at the other end, it's very, very hard to go on in Champions League. Like we made critical errors that cost us goals, and if you look at the other side, we just couldn't finish, and we didn't finish nearly enough. That second leg would have been a different tie if Morata bangs at home in the 2nd minute on that header from point blank.
I had that feeling as well straight away when tweeted, either side, and it's a goal.
9 times out of 10, that's a goal.
Yes.
Yeah, we're marching on. Yeah.
And that changes the complexion of everything. The fact that, what went down, the PK, them getting the first one, just made things a little different. The whole thing about this team as well, too, while we're talking about could they compete, AJ's saying he thinks that we would have a better chance in winning the Super League than the current Champions League. I don't know if that's a bold statement. I don't know if I necessarily agree, but I think this team right now, the reason we're seeing such a flux in match to match and whatnot and everything, it comes down to confidence. And when you have a team that's transitioning from manager to another manager, you have a lot of young guys. You have some guys getting way more minutes than they even anticipated. These guys are trying to figure themselves out. Some of these players are trying to find roles in Pirlo's setup. That's going to affect where your confidence level is.
Yeah.
And the difference I see in this particular team this season is that the confidence, it comes in waves. Like it's an up and down, which is normal for a team that's making a transition. These guys, some guys have it and they run like that, and it is what it is. And some guys, the fight, the drive, the determination leads them into a mode where it doesn't really matter where their confidence level is because the effort is so damn high, right?
Yeah.
And you also have some guys that are, you can maybe say past it, but it's very, very hard. They're just piecing things together. But again, ultimately, I think right now when you look at this club, it comes down to just the building. We lack certain characteristics that you need in a club, and I think come January they tried. The options just weren't there, and you're very, very limited. So while we could talk about management, and you could call it a failure, whatever, but I understand why it failed, and ultimately it's the current scenario and circumstances that everybody's dealing with these revenue losses, and January is the perfect opportunity to grab that one piece you kind of need most or whatnot, but it wasn't available. Was not available this particular season. I do want to address something because Batman apparently has joined us, which is amazing. I've always been a big fan of Batman. Superman, Wolverine is apparently my favorite personally, and yes, it's because he's Canadian. But Batman, damn, you skipped my question, but it's all right. I didn't skip it. I've supported Juve for 20 years now. And the other day I met a guy who said I'm not a real fan because I'm not Italian. Has this ever happened to you guys? I am Canadian Italian, and nobody's ever said a thing to me in that regards. But Colin, in Ireland, supporting Juve. How's that? You could probably speak to that.
Well, first of all, I think whoever it is has got some neck saying that to Batman. But yeah, I mean,
what can I say? Like, people kind of support who they want to support for their own reasons, and yeah, like I've come across it a few times here, but like it's very easy for me to deal with it. I'm kind of, okay, who do you support? It's like, right, okay, well, how are you connected with that club in any way more than I am with mine? And
Exactly.
bar buying a jersey, sitting down and watching TV, or maybe going to the stadium. And like it for me, usually it's dealing with, you don't support a Premier League club, you don't support Liverpool, you don't support Manchester United. I'm like, no, I don't. No, I don't. Like, I'm not English. I don't have any. Like, I'm not from Manchester. I'm not from Liverpool. I don't. I support teams in Ireland as well, but not as a. It's more as a kind of just to show support. But no, I'm a Juve fan for a long time. I support where my heart is. Do you know what I mean? Where when I watch something and it resonates with me, I follow that. And that's what I love. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Antonio, you got anything you want to add to that whole question and whatnot?
Just to see if I can get an autograph off Batman at the end of the show, because we're in the we're in the presence of royalty today, guys. Obviously, being over in Scotland, my mum and dad are both Italian, but I was born here, so I suppose it doesn't really kind of involve me, that question. However, if someone's asking you in this day and age, with everything that's going on, why you support a side, you shouldn't support that team because you're Italian, I think I'm very open-minded. You can be whoever you want to be. You can do whatever you want to do. It's nobody's right to say that to you and make you feel that way, as I say. But me personally, I've never been asked that. No, as I say, unfortunately, I stay in Scotland, which unless last time you checked, we don't have massive super clubs here, and I certainly don't want to support Rangers or Celtic. That's for sure. So no, Juve for me, and I've never had an issue.
There you go. Tony coming in saying you don't have to be Italian to be a Juve hardcore fan. Absolutely, you don't have to. And I mean, we can't help who we fall in love with as young kids watching a team or whatnot, watching players like. And Juve was blessed with incredible talent, for so many years. Zidane. We had Davids, whose birthday it was yesterday, one of my favorites. Del Piero. Trezeguet, Buffon's captured a lot of people, Roberto Baggio, even go further into that, Sharea, Platini. Platini was massive. It is what it is. I think this is funny, though. He hasn't spoken to his father for 3 months because he's an AC Milan fan. That might be a bit much, and Batman thanks us for the responses, and the last thing any of us want to do is piss off Batman. So
exactly,
you're very, very welcome. I want to touch on this, and can you just saying, I think the team needs more pace. We're such a slow team. Cuadrado and Chiesa are only pacey players. For me, the biggest thing I notice, even beyond like a individual pace, is the ball movement being the slowest. Far too slow. And again, I think it comes down to certain abilities or whatnot, but we have opportunities to switch the field, and we would rather knock it 5 feet each time across the way to get there rather than have that guy in the middle of the park that can see it and just ping the damn thing so that player can then go 1v1, trigger these guys, trigger Chiesa when he's out on the flank by hitting them. One of the things Bonucci tried to do in that second leg against Porto was trigger Chiesa on those 1v1s by trying to hit him quick on those. But again, very, very do we need more pace? I mean, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. But when teams are parking, and Porto had 6 at the back at certain times, that pace doesn't really do a whole bunch, does it? Before we're getting close to really nailing down into Cagliari Juventus today, but we wanted to talk about Cristiano Ronaldo, and we all saw the post that Cristiano Ronaldo put out yesterday. in terms of champions never break and, the rah thing. But I can't help but feel a little annoyed. And as Colin points to the Cristiano shirt behind him, but we know who needs to kick this spot off, right, Colin? It's going to be Antonio. And Antonio, your thoughts on the Ronaldo post there and his words?
Yeah, I'll keep this one short, guys, because I've got an A3.
Don't.
I've got an A3 agenda. I'm sure the time will come to obviously to discuss it in further detail. So I'll just answer your question, Alberto. For me, I've got a big problem with that, yes, because it's down to timing. Now, if you remember, after the Porto elimination, the guys that went up to the camera were, if my memory serves me correctly, the Chiesa, De Ligt, and I think Cuadrado in some interviews. Now, the guys, well, I probably want to say the Juventus players alone, modern day footballers in general have got a massive problem with taking to social media after a defeat, whether it's a couple of hours after the defeat or a couple of days, with these motivational slurs, and then they go out the next game and do the exact same mistakes. It's all to do with timing. Ronaldo's such a leader. To me personally, he should have went up after the game because his performance was shocking, so he could have at least have the decency to go up and obviously address the whole kind of the whole every Juventini. So it's just I've got a problem with timing. I think that's kind of the issue I've got. It's came too far down the line, and it's the same rubbish they talk all the time, and then they go out and do the same or give the same performance. So it's just timing, not just Ronaldo. I'll not give him too much stick. There's a lot of them. Bonucci's very, very. He's guilty of it as well. As I say, I want less actions. Less words, more actions. Absolutely.
Yeah. Colin, your thoughts?
I'm trying to see it from a more balanced perspective. I share Antonio's frustration in that Senatori didn't really turn up for the cameras to face Capello's wrath, and it's real hard. Personally, I would have liked to have seen Chiellini front and center as the club captain, and but I thought it was very brave of Chiesa. I mean, why didn't we see Ronaldo? If you bring Ronaldo out, I'm just playing the other side of it now, but if you bring Ronaldo out, it's almost certain there's going to be a question: are you going to leave? Do you know what I mean? They might have one or two handy questions, and it's going to come up in the conversation: are you going to leave? And because they're ruthless, so in their line of questioning, and I don't even know if we have an answer to that question. I don't even know if Ronaldo knows if he's going to leave yet. I know we heard a bit yesterday from Di Natale that he reckons it's going to be that Juve went and looked for a 1-year extension. Obviously, that's not signed yet. Do you know what I mean?
No.
So we don't know.
Mirko also did say it's in Cristiano's hands.
Yeah.
So he said, basically, for anyone that didn't check out the interview, it is on YouTube. Make sure you check it out. Fantastic interview. Myself and Rocco interviewing Mirko Di Natale from Tutto Juve. But he said they tried to extend. They wanted to have it extended before this second leg against Porto. The contract, obviously it didn't happen. They didn't sit down or whatnot. But that hasn't changed. From Juve's standpoint, is that apparently, according to Mirko Di Natale, nothing's changed from Juve's end. So these rumors of the 29 million, the 35 million euro, they're nothing. Basically, he debunked those and said no. For them, they'll still at minimum see out the contract, and everything's in Ronaldo's hands, which is very, very interesting.
Yeah,
This for me, I think you bring up a great point, Colin, in terms of those guys being ruthless and what they would ask, the questions that and let's be honest, I've got my thoughts about Capello. If he could take shots, he would. He's that guy.
Oh, yeah.
And I would turn it back and be like, Capello, why don't you answer me why the fuck you did absolutely nothing in Champions League with one of the best Juve rosters of all time?
Yeah.
Why don't you answer me that? It's because it's a hard fucking tournament to win and shit happens. It's sports.
Yeah.
But I would have gained more respect and been more, I don't know, less annoyed if Ronaldo did step up to it. And say he gets asked that question. Are you leaving?
Yeah.
And just throwing it back at them and say, why would you ask me this now? We have so much more to fight for. Everything he put in that rant would have been the time to do it.
Exactly.
That would have been the time to do it.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to say, oh, I don't know. Like, that would be the worst thing to say possible. But he could say, I don't need to discuss this at this moment in time. Like, we have so much still yet to fight for, you know? And this is not the result any of us needed or wanted to see. This is not the result we wanted to see. But my contract is until next season. Every match, you know, while this contract is in effect, I will fight for this club. Like, just something along those lines.
Yeah.
But the fact of facing it and combating it rather than hiding is the part I struggle with. And then the biggest thing that bothers me about this whole thing, and just kind of, like I said, I find annoying. You come out days later with this rah post, okay? But your attitude for a month and a half on the pitch has not reflected what you've just put into words.
And that's where my worry is for the remainder of this season. I think
that's the disconnect that I'm having, that I'm struggling with. If on the pitch he wasn't constantly looking like he's ready to leave this club, because on the pitch, I look like to me, he looks like a guy that doesn't believe this team is good enough. And whether you think that or not, as a team leader, you cannot show that. You can't.
I think me as well. I think the reason maybe it doesn't go up for interviews because he can't speak one word of fucking Italian after 3 years.
Well, that's a really good point.
And
that's a fantastic point.
And that's another personal gripe I've got with him. The money we pay him, the global exposure he gets, the love he gets off all the fans, not only Juventus, obviously all the fanboys, even people not related to football. He could at least give you the decency to learn some Italian, like Matteus de Ligt, 21-year-old. And he speaks almost perfect Italian, enough to conduct himself in front of a camera. I think that's the least they can do, and he's not bored his backside to try. So that, to me, shows that at any given moment, he can say, do you know what, I'm out. You know, because I don't owe anybody anything. And as I say, and he plays like that as well, and he has been playing like that. And it frustrates me because I think he's holding the potential of this side back. We all seen it against Lazio.
And
there is life without him. 100%.
Yeah, and that's perfect segue into this comment here coming in. I personally think we're better without Ronaldo. For me, he doesn't fit the Juve style where everyone works for one another. Looking at our past Champions League final squads, they work hard for one another. This is a really, really bold statement. And it's interesting because Luis Figo was actually asked the same and said, were Juve better without Ronaldo? His answer was, maybe they were better without Ronaldo, but Cristiano Ronaldo was definitely better without them.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
So here's the thing. I put a comment out there. I don't think Cristiano Ronaldo, in a sense, is a failure. I don't think he's the failure why this project has failed. Not by any means, because he's done his job, which is to score and whatnot and produce. The numbers are strong. But the project is a failure. And whether it was management or whatnot, but Juve did lose in this whole scenario, in my opinion. Now, people had a tough time distinguishing what I was speaking to, because now all of a sudden they were tying in my original post, which said Ronaldo is not a failure. The project is a failure, and I blame management. We talked about it earlier. Not moving on from guys. Count your losses to get the best possible roster that you can to help Ronaldo succeed, right? And in this win now mode. So The problem I have is, and distinguishing the difference here is, while Ronaldo is not the reason or a failure, the project has failed, and therein lies why Juve have lost. Okay, so people need to understand, you can't say it in the same breath that, you know, the Ronaldo project was a failure, but Juve didn't lose in it. Of course they lost in it, you know, and there's a certain thing that comes along with having Cristiano Ronaldo on your roster. I don't think Juve was ever properly prepared. And when you have to massage someone's ego to do things that normally aren't required to do, it starts to create this lose your spine type scenario as far as the club goes. You know, it goes back to Sarri and substitutions and Ronaldo literally leaving the stadium.
Yeah.
Yes. And that just wouldn't have happened back in the day, you know.
Exactly.
Wouldn't have happened.
And, you know, it's all fine that the reports come out and it says, oh, Chiellini and these guys talk to him and whatnot. Is that really enough, though? Yeah. And when you see him on the pitch and he's rah, giving all these guys shit, but he loses the ball or gets dispossessed or like easily, and then all of a sudden the fight isn't there. Well, you can't be bragging on all these guys.
Yeah.
And then not be at that same standard. So now how I tie this into the words that annoyed me is, again, his attitude seems to kind of play in with this whole thing that he is, and it's something you hear from the fanboys all the time, is that Ronaldo is bigger than Juve.
No, he's not. No, he's not. No way.
No, he's not. Maybe no on way. Social media.
No way. Yeah, of course, no way. There's no player bigger in the club. Absolutely not.
I'm with you. I'm with you. But I'm saying these are the things that feed his ego, that make it seem like he believes this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and it's very, very, very tough to manage that and keep things going. And we talked about it. It's only one match. It's against Lazio, but that was more of a Juve we were used to.
Yeah.
Which is all the guys having the same level and fight.
We watched that live. The tempo was there from the get-go, and there was you could see the players like Chiesa. I mean, Alberto, you made a fantastic point on Rabiot's goal. Would he score that goal from that position if Ronaldo was playing? The answer is no, because you're automatically looking for him every single time the ball's down the left hand. Anywhere in the pitch, you're looking for him. So you almost play into the opposition's hands because they know that you're only going to play through one side. Yeah. So you become incredibly predictable. Now, against Lazio, we lost that predictability and we looked amazing. We looked, wow, these guys look as if they're fresh ideas.
It looked more of a team.
Yeah, tempo is the most important part. Tempo. In Europe, you see all these teams, Bayern Munich, Liverpool, Manchester City. They might not have the quickest player, but the ball moves constantly. There's rotation. Everything that Ronaldo almost hinders you.
And this is just us spitballing and things, you know. This is not taking away anything from Cristiano Ronaldo, obviously, but I think it says a lot about the team that you have to have in order to afford the luxury. I keep saying this. Juventus cannot afford the luxury of having Ronaldo on the team right now based on the roster we have. That's my assessment, and that's why I kind of put it to management and whatnot. If you look back to Ronaldo too, somebody actually put it in a post too. Madrid did nothing with Ronaldo, even though his numbers were fantastic, until they brought in two world-class mids.
Yeah. Modric
and Kroos.
When Modric and Kroos came in, boom, night and day. We talk about this too. Somebody made a comment earlier in this chat as well about the predictability of our play. And it was Tony. Has anyone noticed our way of playing? We never try to penetrate the middle. We use more and more wings with Case Quadrado, have to change because we're becoming predictable. The issue lies, and again, what we were talking earlier about bringing in an Awar or a DePaul. You need guys that are threats in the middle that can create, that can make those passes. If you look at DePaul yesterday, he set up that PK with a brilliant over-the-top ball in such a short range.
Yeah.
Who on our team makes that pass?
In the midfield, no one.
Arthur has the potential, but he's been used in a kind of a building initial phase, you know.
And I would agree that probably Artur is the only one that can make. But that's my point. Is you don't have that guy that can see that can think that can make that pass. We don't have that. Dan coming in saying Bonucci. Hello.
Yeah, Bonucci. He can make that pass from the stand. He can,
This is one of those things, right? So it's just, I think we were not prepared to bring on Ronaldo, you know. And good morning, Dan. Good to have you on, buddy. And now, you know, enough of the CR thing. The best thing he can do is follow up those words off the post and show us on the pitch, because I'm kind of running onto this thing with all the other guys. I'm done with the talk and the social media posts and whatnot. Bring it to the pitch and show it. And Colin, you've been alluding to this all week, and say, you know, save it up. If you guys don't want to talk to the media, you guys don't want to put your faces to the cameras, you better back it up, you know, save it for the match. So.
Yeah. I was surprised he did any kind of a post or I believe it was on his Instagram. I was surprised he even did that. Because it got to the point where I was kind of like, oh, maybe he's just waiting for the next game to actually show things rather than, you know, talk shit. You know, and I was well prepared for that. At that point, I was kind of like, oh, maybe, you know, but he put out that comment. I don't put any heed or you know, anything in that comment at all. Like, I think I read it once or twice, and I don't give a damn really what it says. Just pitch, show me. Exactly.
And now to the pitch. Cagliari Juventus today. Juve being away from home. In the last 8 Serie A matches, only one club has more points than Juventus, and that's Merda. Juve has won the last 8 out of 9 meetings versus Cagliari. In those 9 matchups, Cagliari has only scored 3 times. Our last meeting was a dominant performance by Juventus, the scoreline being 2-0 on November 21st, but we rendered Pedro useless for them, which really, really stymied Cagliari. The fact that he was having to drop so deep, and he ended up playing most of the match defensively. We should look to capitalize on that again and try to create the same scenario. Who's going to be in the lineup most likely for Cagliari? Pavoletti will be out due to suspension. But most projections for Cagliari have Gragno at the back, Clavin, Godin, Cepitelli, Zappa, Duncan, Nainggolan, Marin, Nandez, with Pedro and Simeone being up top. When you look at Juve's starting lineup again, for outs, Demiral, unfortunately, injured. Ramsey, I mean, water is wet. Bentancur, Dybala continues to just, it's crazy. We went from 15 to 20 days to not hearing a single word.
I think he's finished. I think he's finished this season.
So incredibly frustrating. And then Buffon, who was slated to play, is actually out. So for Juve, I've seen a couple alterations, but most seem to be Szczesny in goal, Quadrado, Bonucci. It seems to be a toss-up at center back, actually. I've seen De Ligt and Bonucci. I've seen Bonucci, Chiellini. We'll see what happens there at center back. But Danilo on one side. McKennie, Artur, Rabiot, Chiesa, Morata, CR7. I've also seen some lineups that have Bernardeschi in there, and I've seen some that have Kulishevsky in there. For me, I think we'll see close to this particular projection I nailed. I would expect Morata to be up at the top with Cristiano. Again, we're chasing this thing. We're out of champs now. It's going to be your best possible every match in now. So I would expect Morata in there. I would expect McKennie, Artur, Rabiot with Chiesa, and at the back, I'd be fine with either of those alterations. But this particular match, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We have to win. Have to win. It's going to be a scrappy match away from home. But how do you guys feel about this one going into it, coming on the loss? Do you anticipate a strong bounce back from Juve and them to come out and make that statement? How do you guys feel about this one?
It has to be a strong bounce back. Like they have to show that they're still fighting. You know what I mean? I know they've had to do this quite a lot this season, where we've taken heavy losses and then our losses at key times against key teams and rivals, and we've had to come out and show who's the real Juve. But they have to do it again. You can't go into the Champions League like that and just coast afterwards. There has to be anger. It has to be an angry Juve. They need to be set up right. Judging on what you've said there with Artur, Rabiot, McKennie, I hope it's a midfield three, because I think McKennie, in his current condition, to have him kind of out wide, it's tough for him. He doesn't quite have the running at the moment, and I hope we see a similar setup to the Lazio game, just because I want to see what the front two or three look like with Ronaldo in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you, and it's something we want to see. And Keeney here saying the same thing. Ultimately, today we have to make a statement to show Scudetto is not over yet. Antonio, your thoughts going into this one?
Yeah, just to kind of piggyback off what both you guys said, I think the first thing we'll all be looking at is reaction, fight, drive, all the old school things, all the basic things that sometimes you forget in football. I know at the highest level you don't always see that, but I will be looking at that because I want to be proved wrong. Because at the moment, I still agree with a lot of the comments that were made previously. I think our level just now is Porto, Ajax, and Lyon. I think we're at the same level with these sides, unfortunately, because we need to be realistic. So I want to be proved wrong. I want the guys to go out, show drive, and to make us all believe that it's not over. Because you can see, it's easy to say it on Instagram and Twitter or all these social media platforms. You can say what you want, but we need to see actions. Actions are louder than words.
Yeah. And again, and Alex, shout out to Alex, just joining us. He needs a tripleta from someone today. I need that from somebody every match. But, you know, this is the thing with this club. And again, if there's ever a sign that you are in a transition, and again, I talked a lot about confidence earlier on, it's these moments where you have that moment to build off of. We haven't been able to follow them up. You know what I mean? Like, you play the Lazio match, arguably one of your best matches. You didn't even need Cristiano Ronaldo. It should be a massive pick-me-up for the Porto match. The fact that you just beat a rival, a tough opponent in a big match in the league prior to going into there. And we couldn't follow it up with that drive, with that attitude. And we added Cristiano Ronaldo. If you look earlier on in the season, we went through a massive January. We did get depleted by injuries or whatnot, but we had a great run of success. And then you completely black out in a match where all your matches in Serie A are important. You know, you start drawing matches and you start crumbling in these clutch moments. You know, and that's symbolic of a team that is transitioning. Because before, you could bank on Juve getting through those clutch moments. It was just, it was never a doubt. It was like the time it happened, you were like, oh, okay, you know, like that's shitty, but it is what it is, because more often than not, they would always pull through.
Yeah.
We are having issues pulling through in the critical
Yeah.
moments. And we're also not following up big opportunities with the momentum. We're just unable to keep that rolling and from one match to another. And again, the list of reasons why goes on and on and on. And it's tough, but that's the reality. We are in transition. We are making changes, and it was always going to happen. It's a new cycle, and that's what's going to happen. So the one thing that was interesting about Mirko Di Natale being on is talking to him about Pirlo, how he saw the season as a failure. Is it a failure? Well, no, he said absolutely not. Absolutely not. Is the desire of the club to truly keep Pirlo? And he said absolutely. They committed minimum 2 years. Minimum 2 years commitment. So it'll be very, very interesting to see what happens or if that changes. But I don't even want to think of a scenario that would change it, because to me, it would mean that we fall out of the top 4. That's the only scenario I think that could possibly change that or alter their minds, but I don't see it happening by any means.
Yeah.
We were on a streak. I was wearing the 2017-18 home kit. Obviously, it didn't work out against Porto. I got to change it up now today. So for fun, I want to ask you guys, do you guys ever do anything superstitious, change things up after a loss or anything? And everybody join us live. You guys have superstitious. Do you change things up? If you're sporting a jersey, what jersey are you going to be wearing? What's your favorite jerseys? I want to talk to you guys. Do you change things up after a loss or anything? You guys do any superstitious stuff? Colin, do you?
Yeah, well, you know I do, but none of my tricks are working this year. That's the problem. I'm kind of confused to the point now where I don't give a shit. I mean, a lot of times where if I wear like a home jersey and I get like really revved up before a game, and if the performance isn't good, I'm like, fuck it, don't get your hopes up next time. Or I'll do the prediction on the Juventus app, and if it doesn't work out, I won't do it the next time. And then I left it off the next time, and it didn't work out again. And I was like, okay, well, that's fine, So I don't know. I just, yeah, it's silly
Antonio,
stuff, really.
You gonna do anything? Try anything to change it up? Get us back in the winning track?
Yeah, stop watching the game, my dad. every time he's in my house, we get beat. Honest to God, I think he's a bloody omen. I really do, a bad omen. So, no, all joking aside, I'm not a superstitious guy. I believe in life you make your own luck. We need to make in life and on the football pitch you need to make your own luck. So go out 3 points and we move on. So we know what we need to do. So let's go out and do it.
There you go. Lewis coming in. He listens to the anthem, Storia di un grande amore, for about an hour pre-match to fire him up. There you go. I'm going to change it up. I think I'm going to just sport a T-shirt today, a Juve shirt rather than the kits, because it hasn't been working out there. AJ coming in saying, we've been inconsistent since round 1. I don't see any reason on why we would suddenly become consistent. Sorry, guys, the Scudetto is gone. For me, I think, again, there's context there, right? It's hard to find consistency right out of the gate in round 1 when you have a new manager that has no preseason and a bunch of new players to the side. I wasn't expecting consistency from round 1, but I was expecting us to hopefully, try and figure some things out, see what Pirlo would bring, and start to figure out who needs to play where. We still didn't even know how Pirlo was going to line us up in shape, what guys he was going to use here and there. And if you look at the start till now, it's quite a big significant difference in who plays where and what their roles are. So it's just one of those seasons where it's constantly evolving, and it never helps when you hit January, a crucial month. The guys went almost flawless, only dropping points in one match. But then you go from one guy on the injured list to literally depleted.
Yeah.
Again, that was a tough. Right when you're picking up momentum, you're gaining strength, to just be depleted, it sucks and it hurts. And teams are dealing with it, whatnot. I don't know if anybody's dealt with it as much as us. And again, maybe you can criticize upper management for that. Like, who's in charge of our training staff?
Yeah, that's a good question, Alberto.
And like the list of injuries, like we made a change at that position this season too. Made a change at that position and brought in the guy that I believe was around when Colin was with Juve. His name eludes me right now, but we brought him back, and that was one of the most physically fit sides that we had seen. Like they were beasts, but you start to wonder now with a far more congested schedule if that's affecting. Maybe that, I don't know, but things need to be looked at, I think, at that level. Yeah. When you've got guys constantly muscle problems and whatnot. And how many times has Juventus had a guy get injured in a warm-up or training? Like it's wild how much it actually happens to this side. Mm-hmm. But you guys nailed it on the head as far as Cagliari Juventus goes. The attitude.
Yeah, attitude is number one.
Be the big one. Yeah. The response. How they come out. Show us. Stop talking about it. Nobody cares about the words, that you're posting on Instagram or whatever and how many likes you get on a comment. Let's see it on the pitch. All eyes, not all eyes, but eyes are going to be on Cristiano Ronaldo. If you're this guy, like, let's go, we need the big push. This is it. We need to believe that we have a fight here. Eyes are going to be on you. Eyes are always on Chiesa because he's a fantastic player. I just enjoy watching this guy. But eyes are going to be on those two, and eyes are going to be on the midfield. They always are.
Artur.
Artur, now that he's back in there. Guys, real quick, we're going to wrap up with predictions. Everybody that's joining us live, get your predictions in right now. I know Colin's not a big fan of the predictions, so we'll kick it off with Antonio. Your score prediction?
3-0, 3-0.
3-0.
Yep.
3-0 Juve. There you go. Colin, do you want to throw one out there?
I will, I'm going to go a bit crazy here. I'm going to say 4-0. I'm back in, like, what we're looking for. I'm back in Juve to pull that out.
Sorry, Colin, can I just add, Omar cost me £15 at the bookies, actually, for the Porto game, because he was certain that Juventus were going to win 4-1, so I went and put £15 on, and now he owes me £15. So if he's watching this, get your wallet out.
Well, guys, just to say to anybody watching, don't take my prediction to the bookies, and don't give me any hate if you do. If you do, it's your own issue.
There you go. We got some predictions coming in now from our guests, and can you hear 2-0 again? Chiesa, Ronaldo, Marco Roberto, 3-1. Rugani own goal. Cagliari 1, Juve 0 because AJ's got to be AJ. It's his little reverse jinx thing.
Psychology.
Animesh coming in, Juve 1, Cagliari 0. Batman, this is the prediction I was waiting for. We will be pissed off and smash them 3-0. Amazing. David Fafar 4-0. They'll have something to prove. Dan Lucci coming in 3-1. Ali coming in with 2-0. Chiesa Morata. Ken coming in with 2-0. So very, very positive, aside from AJ, which is typical. But that's okay.
Yeah.
AJ, what would your prediction be if Allegri was coaching today?
I was going to say this.
That should be the better question.
Earlier on. It's like,
no, but my prediction, guys, I think, honestly, we'll see the same that we did November 21st. I think Juve will kind of press them, make it very, very hard for Pedro to get involved. And I think it's going to be a 2-0. I'm going with a 2-0 Juve victory. Guys, as always, I can't thank everybody enough who joined the live today. If you guys haven't, go back, watch the interview from yesterday with Mirko Di Natale. It was really, really good stuff. give you guys a lot of good instant kind of inside look on some of these rumors, and he debunks a few, and it was really, really good. Keep in mind, he will be back with us during the summer mercado, and that's going to be some exciting stuff. So thank you, everybody who joined the live. Colin, Antonio, it's always a pleasure. Thanks again, and let's enjoy the match, and let's have faith, because at the end of the day, that's all we can do is have faith in the squad. Let's have faith that the guys get it right, that the leaders show up and back up the words. All right. So let's see what the boys can produce today against Cagliari, and of course, back tomorrow 5 a.m. post-match podcast, where hopefully we're all celebrating a victory. Forza Juve, fino alla fine. Ciao.
Ciao, guys.